Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about whether or not the Browns should draft Will Howard, and we'll look at some other Buckeye players as well that Cleveland could be targeting in April. Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Host Matthew Peterson here, wearing my Tennessee t-shirt, not as a troll attempt, even if this could be a troll attempt, but you guys can get one more laugh at me and dance on my grave one final time. But in all sincerity, congratulations, Ohio State fans. I know that after losing the regular season finale to a certain team, it looked gloom and it looked bad. But Ryan Day weathered the storm and an incredible run and one of the best teams in college football playoff history in terms of just talent and production. And that leads us to Will Howard, because I've seen a lot of chatter online about the Browns should seriously look at drafting Will Howard. I think we're probably one more Ohio State Will Howard highlight video release away from people putting out the idea of taking him second overall. So I want to talk about Howard just as a player, because in the national championship game, he was great. He was poised. He was calm. He was decisive. He was excellent on the ground as a rusher. Completion percentage, 81, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was everything you could be looking for in a quarterback in the brightest, biggest game with the lights at the absolute brightest. In his career, 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions at Ohio State after 4 seasons at Kansas State, transferred over. So we got the numbers out of the way. Let's get to know him a little bit better as an overall prospect and talk about whether or not the fit would be good in Cleveland. From a makeup standpoint, like a physical profile, it's everything you want. 6'4", 237 pounds. Now, he is on the older side, and we know Andrew Berry likes to be a little bit of a Leonardo DiCaprio when he's looking at prospects. He likes them younger. So that's definitely going to be something that Berry factors in. But from a pro-con pro, a nice compliment sandwich standpoint, solid arm talent. I don't think it's the strongest arm in the draft, but it's a good arm. He can make all the throws you pretty much want a quarterback to make. The con I have for him is he lacks elite physical traits. I don't think he's going to go to the combine and be the best at any one thing. He'll probably be top 5 in a lot of things, right? But he's never going to really stand out as, hey, this is my calling card. This is what I do better than anyone else. Pro, though, on top of that, sneaky good runner. I don't think people look at Will Howard and assume that tall, white farm boy from middle America is an excellent runner. No, he can move, he can get the first down, and I think that comes with a lot of the experience he's gained at Kansas State and then over at Ohio State. There were a lot of instances in that first half last night where Notre Dame was in man defense and he had no one spying on him, so most of their third down conversions, it felt like, came from Howard either making great throws or just using his legs to move the chains. But my honest analysis as someone who's not, an Ohio State fan, didn't grow up an Ohio State fan, he doesn't scream Andrew Berry guy. Andrew Berry tends to have a pattern when it comes to his draft picks. Great physical traits, elite tools, that physical makeup, kind of preferring track stars over football players, which I don't agree with, but that's just the guy who Andrew Berry is when he drafts players, and a preference for younger players. He's going to be 24 years old. That's not a red flag to me. That's not something that I'm going to, raise my hand up and go, that's too big of a concern to use a third-round draft pick on. But if we're just going off of Andrew Berry's history, those are two things that really jump out to me that don't help Will Howard's profile when the Browns look at it. Now, having said that, on the flip side, I'm wondering if Jimmy Haslam is looking for brownie points, no pun intended. And he's going to go into that war room. He's going to talk with Berry and say, so everyone's kind of pissed at us because of the whole Deshaun Watson thing. You know what would win the public over and maybe win some of the local media over? How about we draft a couple of Buckeyes? We don't have to use premium first or second round draft picks on them, but we've got 2 third-round picks. Would it really set us back if we reached on Will Howard, even if you guys think he's a round 4, round 5 guy, but we want to, confirm we can get him in round 3, and the fan base is maybe a little bit less pissed off? I would not rule out ownership coming in and saying, we need to add a few Ohio State players because that's going to get people off our backs a little bit. So I want to ask you, do you want to draft Will Howard? You know who else didn't have elite physical traits like Brock Purdy did? Mr. Irrelevant. But he had so much experience at Ohio State that he was decisive in the pocket. He made the correct throws. He takes what the defense gives him. And that's what's made him such a successful quarterback with the 49ers. Not because he's got some Howard server right arm or he's got track star legs. No, he just does the right thing with the football more often than not. Plus, he's got a lot of good weapons in San Francisco. So I don't think Will Howard, not having this cannon of an arm like an Anthony Richardson where he can just flick his wrist and it just fires down the field 50 yards, or Jaden Daniels' scrambling abilities, although he is a good runner. I don't think those things should hold him back. I think there was a good body of work out there, and I'd be interested in Howard if a round 3 pick presents itself with Howard still on the board. You can look at the Browns draft picks because it just got updated today, actually. The comp picks were, I wouldn't say leaked, but projected by Over the Cap, and the Browns are slated to have 12 picks, 5 selections in round 6. They're not going to pick 5 times in round 6. They're going to use some of those draft picks to move up or down or acquire players or whatever they want. But they do have 2 third-round picks. So that bonus third-rounder from the Buffalo Bills in the Amari Cooper trade might be enough where the Browns kind of look at it as, even if there's someone on the board who we think might be a better overall player, we need to address quarterback at some point in this draft. If they don't do it in round 1, they don't do it in round 2. Round 3 is a great spot to target a quarterback like Will Howard, like Jackson Dart, maybe Kyle McCord, one of those kind of round 3 guys. And I could see the Buckeye treatment getting Howard over to Cleveland because Haslam wants the fan base to be just less severely pissed off at him. So green light for me on going with the quarterback in round 3. Even if you like this cornerback more, the position value of the quarterback, I'm willing to allow the Browns to reach on someone in round 3. Not in round 1, because the second overall draft pick is too valuable to waste on just taking a position, not taking a player. But in round 3, you can take the position, not the player. Before we look at the rest of today's video and some more Ohio State players that could be drafted by the Browns, quick shout out to our friends over at Fume. Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits, led by today's sponsor, Fume. It is an award-winning flavored air device. Fume fills the void ditching a bad habit can leave. You can still have something to reach for. It is not a vape, and it can be used as an alternative to vaping or quitting vaping. If vapor was compared to sticky soda, Fume cores are closer to herbal teas. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. So, get started with Fume today. All this information is in the comments and description of today's video, but go to TreVeyon.com and use promo code ChatSports, and you'll get a free Fume topper, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Once more, go to TreVeyon.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen. Like I said, all this information is down in the comments and description of today's video. Check out Fume today if you are trying to ditch a bad habit. Switching gears from Howard and looking at some of the other Buckeyes, I want to put Josh Simmons on people's radar. I think he's a very good prospect at left tackle, and unfortunately, a season-ending injury against Oregon on the road kind of took him off the radar for a lot of people, but I think this could be something the Browns use to their advantage, because had he played the entire season, he'd probably be a lock for round 1. Instead, he might slip to round 2, and that could be a bonus pick for the Browns because they might be getting 2 players in the first 2 rounds of the draft that have round 1 quality perks to them. So, who is Simmons? Well, he's a 6'5", 310-pound monster of a tackle, so you're getting a good-sized player. He transferred from San Diego State, where he played right and left tackle for the Aztecs, comes over to Ohio State. He immediately starts at left tackle in his first season for the Buckeyes. He would start at left tackle in all of 2023 and about half of 2024 before his injury. And that injury has caused him to fall off of some people's radars, and I think this could be the makeup, somewhat like DeJuan Jones, where people look at and go, how did he fall so far in the draft? Well, because Dwan Jones struggled with some weight issues, which we did see this past season, but if he can get that under control, it's going to be a great pick for Cleveland. And Simmons, I think, might fall because people are concerned about drafting players with an injury history. And there are a lot of good players who have injuries in college that have great NFL careers. Now, the Browns also have the first pick in round number 2. So outside of the lack of fifth-year option, they might be able to sneak in another first-round kind of quality player with that 33rd overall pick. If you don't know, basically the draft order tiebreaker is strength of schedule, and then every single round, wherever you are amongst the teams with the same record, you fall back in line, and then you climb up one spot. So the Titans, the Giants, the Browns, they all have the same record. So the Titans go from picking first in round 1 to picking last of those same records in round 2. In round 3, they'll move up a spot, and the Browns will fall all the way to the back. So that's kind of how it works. Now, Ohio State this year, outside of Will Howard and Josh Simmons, had some other phenomenal players, as we all know, as well. Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson are 2 players to keep an eye on. My friend Riley sent me this fun stat. There are 2 teams in the college football playoff era that have had 5 players with the following stats: a 4,000-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard rushers, and 2 1,000-yard receivers. 2024 Ohio State, and I'll let you pause the video if you want to think about who the other team in the college football playoff era was. It is Oklahoma in 2018. So after looking at all those Ohio State numbers, if you need to pause the video and grab some lotion and a box of tissues, I understand, because that was an absolute dominant performance from start to finish, more or less, especially in the playoffs where, unfortunately, I saw firsthand, freezing my butt off in Columbus, the Buckeyes pretty much just rolled everyone. Notre Dame made it look a little bit interesting at the end, but it was Ohio State from like the second quarter on. Both teams scored on their opening drive, good 2 long drives, and from there on out, it was all Ohio State, especially with the way they closed to end the first half. Like, you thought Notre Dame might have a chance. They go to the half down 7, make a stop on 3rd down, and they couldn't get it done, and the Buckeyes, they never looked back. So with that in mind, which Ohio State player do you want to see the Browns draft? Will Howard, probably like that round 3 area. Josh Simmons, I think he might go round 1, but he could fall to round 2, the first pick. Or maybe one of the 2 running backs for the Buckeyes. I would definitely go Judkins over Henderson. But let me know which player in the comment section below you want the Browns to draft. Before we sign off, we're going to pick a card. We've got producer Reed back with us today. Reed, which card do you want to go with?
I'm going with Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades? I think that's a mistake. I think for Ohio State, you got to go with a red, like a heart or a diamond. I'm going to go with the King of Hearts. It's not red. 4 of Spades. 4 of Spades. 4 of Spades comes up a lot. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks so much to Fume for sponsoring today's video. Scan the QR code and use code CHATSPORTS to get your free Fume topper when you order your Journey Pack today.